Uh, so pronounce your name for me again. Is Sache?
Yes.
Sache. Okay. Greetings, Sache. So tell me how you came to be aware of the TAI Air project, and your interest.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm going to turn my camera on before I start. I don't
Okay.
want you talking to a static picture.
Okay.
Okay, there we are.
Wow. Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, so how did I become aware in my interest? So I was just sharing with Kim. In a way, I've been following Ty for a while, just in following Kim's journey, and I've just feel so much resonance with it. And then how I became aware of TAI Air is because Ayana is another person that's like in my circle by way of my mom. So Ayana and my mom have a relationship, and so I've been able to kind of get to know her as their relationship has bloomed, but not really that deeply. But of course, we follow each other on the socials, and so I saw her, not necessarily this interview, but the open house that y'all did, the house blessing that y'all did. And I was so sad that I couldn't be there, but I saw the video, and Ayana had been sharing kind of her story. And at the same time, in my own kind of journeying, I'd been seeking and kind of desiring intentional, intentional living space, communal living space, like just being at this real crossroads for myself with my work and my art and my, and my personhood, and just kind of really in this season of dying and being reborn. And I call it my fungus phase of just just like taking all of the goodness of what has come before this moment, but knowing that it needs to be transmuted into something else. Like there's lots of decay and death, but out of that is lots of openness to expansion and difference. And so it just kind of all came together at the moment. And so I just followed the urge and reached out and mentioned that I, was interested, and here we are.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
So you talk about your work and your art. I'm unfamiliar.
Mhm.
So tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about your work and a lot about your art. And
Yeah.
do they coincide?
See, that is the question of the season.
Ah,
Of course they coincide because I am a person,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Sure.
Um, and like I'm a few people, but we all share the same body.
Okay.
So my work and my art, I I'm like, oh, am I thinking before I'm talking? I'm not going to do that. What people know me for is for food. And so I am a grower, a culinary artist, a teaching artist. So I teach culinary arts and nutrition to children and youth and adults, and anyone who wants to cook with me, I will. And I do that from a, African-centered heritage diet perspective, as well as, medicinal foods, and really learning how to use food and kind of have a relationship with food that centers health and wellness.
Mhm.
And so in that way, my work is my art, like that is very much, my work is very much an art form
Sure.
for me. And I came to food from a few different roads, which is kind of how I do things, like, 2 or 3 witnesses, right? Like it has to, I, when the signs are numerous and it just kind of flows, that's how I like to be. And so it wasn't until I was farming full time for a few years that I realized that farming is in my lineage, I'm just one generation removed from actually having been born on land and inside of that practice. And so the growing part is kind of ancestral. I don't know. I don't know where any of it comes from, and it does it doesn't matter. But it has definitely been art for me. It's like been head and heart work, and just being able to kind of use my hands and all the things that I've been given to feed people and to nourish people through information and actual physical nourishment. Myself as just an artist and an alchemist, like food is just one medium that I work with. I also like to paint. I like working with fibers, and have been strengthening my sewing lately. Like I have all of these designs that I want out in the world. And fashion has kind of been a love that is just how I show up in the world, and not necessarily what I offer as art. However, I just put myself on a work break, so I left my last position in October. And the reason why I did that is because I felt myself losing the zest, like losing that connection to spirit that helped me to like actually be creative and like be aligned and not have to think so much around what I'm doing. And so in this time that I have not been working, I have just been allowing myself to be creative, like creativity is the North Star. And that has I've really enjoyed it, because I'm just kind of watching this thread, be woven in terms of the things that I'm attracted to and how all of it fits together. And so how the like working with fiber and kind of prepared plant material, if you will, working with raw plant material, and leaning in with the foraging and wildcrafting and even cultivation of plants, and that coming into my art practice. I've been working with paints, which was my very first love as a small child, and have just been kind of stepping into that, and then there's lots more, and even in digital art form as well. So I've been playing around with like animation and collage, like digital collage, which is another just love of mine. And I think, where it's landing for me is that, art is a lifestyle. And I think what I want to offer in terms of like my art is like the art of living, which is not necessarily, and lots of people are here. And I think that it's really important, because like this is this is where we need to be, like as a culture and as a people, and as we kind of re-indigenize, and as the world crumbles around, like this built up pseudo environment that we've all been weaned in crumbles and dies, there is a real need for life to become an art form, to become like, to be sensual, to be seasonal, to be connected, to be vulnerable, creative, for beauty, to be medicine, like to really lean into the medicine that's inside of beauty and aesthetic. And it's like the language, I also in this time have kind of released language as my communication tool. So I'm just like, I've just allowed myself, and it's funny because it's like, I'm a Gemini. It's very much giving communication, my Mercury is right at home in Gemini. Like there is, I'm an air sign, air and fire all the way. That's what I got going on over here. And so it's really interesting to me that as a Gemini, or in this iteration of life, that I'm a Gemini, and that's supposed to be like really talky. And I see myself as very communicative, but I think in terms of re-indigenization, for me, it's been really important to not rely on language and just like to transmute words immediately into expression, into 3D, into thought, to telepathy and like, so it's so as I'm saying this is like it's very wordy because I have not spent a lot of time on zeroing in on the language. I think that's a place where I definitely could use support. But that is also the point. Like, I think, my art or my gift, my desire to share with the world, to the way the beauty that I see that is unique to my perspective, is that life is for living. And like in living, like in living, we create, we build, we sustain, like we experience joy and magic and awe. We experience rigor and challenge, like we don't actually have to create more misery for ourselves than we need to, nor do we have to sit in misery for too long, because there's always art, like there's always a moment to see beauty. There's always an opportunity to like work out physical energy, with weaving and drumming and dancing and singing. And all of these have been things that I've used to kind of heal myself and to grieve, like intentionally grieve my own lifetime and, lifetimes that have come before me. And that's my art practice. My art practice in this moment is a self-healing tool. And my work has been to heal others, or like to be a voice that's just like, hey, it's healing over here, which it has been food. And food, it will always be food, like there will always be food when I am around. But in my own evolution, it's like, okay, that's the baseline need, like we have reached the point of culture where our basic needs are relatively taken care of. And the evolution is to take care of our like spiritual and emotional needs. And that is what my art practice has been.
Okay, awesome. Um, there's so much to unpack in what you said. So, and we're going to get to the space itself, but how do you feed your spirit? There's an Odu that talks about feeding. Feeding goes, it talks about a cauldron and how the cauldron represents feeding people, but it's meant to how you go outside and feed people, but also how you feed yourself physically and spiritually. So how do you feed yourself spiritually?
Amen. um, Everything I just said. And I hear you asking to dig deeper. And I'm policing my thoughts, so I'm gonna just stop.
Okay.
So I think what came up for me in response to your question was why, like how I've settled on art of living, and just noticing that my spirit is fed when I live well. And living well for me is maintaining a devotional for myself, which is it's like on my computer, which I never thought that I would be a digital tracker person, but here we are. And it has, like my intentions, and it just has them very clearly, and I kind of track them that way. And this is coming up first because this is the one that I've recently lost. Like it's the most difficult because it's so unlike me, like it's so unlike me to seek out time in front of a screen versus like laying out in the sun or like playing with my plants. Like I just don't like to be bothered with digital life. And And so, but this tracker, like I fell off for like a month or so. It might have actually been 45 days. And I noticed that I had been in such a slump, in that in the experience, like I had been in such a funky place over the past couple of weeks, which is also strange because I just had a birthday and I loved it,
Mhm,
like this
mhm,
was one of the
mhm.
best birthdays that I've had in many years,
Oh,
and
happy
so
belated birthday.
thank you.
Mhm,
So to feel slump afterwards is like, what is going on? And then
mhm,
when I sat back with this document, um, yesterday after avoiding it, because I was like, oh man, I ain't did nothing, once I sat with it, I'm just like, oh, this is why I have this, like, and so what is alive in me inside of that is not the tracker, it's the fact that I am doing something that I know that I want to do, and I'm doing it even though it's challenging, and I'm doing it even when I fall off, and I'm doing it with self-compassion, and I'm not, and it's like just the opportunity to notice,
mm,
um, notice my experiences and notice how the things that I do that seem like, oh, I mean, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. I'm just like, I'm not here to supposed to do anything, but like, um, yeah, just having that experience of noticing and knowing and understanding, and with that small, like very material thing, but just being able to understand the immaterial metaphysical world through the material world, and like just being in that experience has been so powerful for me, and it is helping me to answer the question of even what is spirit, like for so long, um and I'm only 32, so it's like, sure, I would have liked to had a deeper understanding of spirit in my teens or in my 20s, but that's not my life,
mhm.
and
That's not,
it's like
mhm, mhm.
it's like I'm actually only 32. Like it's okay. Like I'm
Yeah,
still very much
it's
young
okay.
to be figuring it out.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so the question that has been on top lately is like, what is spirit? And not to say that I'm not a believer, because I was raised as a believer. I definitely live by
Mhm,
faith in all ways.
mhm,
But there's this like deepening of my faith and my spiritual practice that is happening inside of these experiences of
mhm,
observation, and also inside of these experiences of like that two or three witnesses thing that I was saying. Like I was another thing that I do to feed myself spiritually is actually feeding myself.
mhm,
um and like my spirit desires green,
mm,
like that is the color of my yearning for food,
mhm,
most often, and that's one place that I struggle to give myself that gift, that
mhm,
I'm just like, actually I don't eat enough green things because I
mhm,
really don't like to eat. I actually like to drink. I prefer
mhm,
teas and smoothies and
mhm,
juices, like uh and like in kind of soft and squishy things. I don't really like a lot of chewing, and so eating for me has been really challenging because my earnest desire toward nourishment is very atypical to what is culturally available.
mm,
Um, but I fasted at the beginning of this year, and in my fast, it was like we did the Daniel fast. I did the Daniel fast with some other women, which is like plant-based, but also no refined sugars or grains,
mhm,
or anything like that. And as I was doing that, I started to notice like just questions and kind of noticings and observations started to show up for me around the connection between like our endocrine system and our digestive system and the chakras and our nervous system. And I'm just like, oh, like the chakra centers are our major hormonal points in the body. Very interesting,
mhm,
So just
mhm,
like
mhm,
understand it. So as I'm like yearning for green food and understanding that like green is feeding, my heart chakra, and that is a place where information where I want information to flow through, like I don't really want to be in my head all the time. It's like I want to just be in the felt sense of it, and to know with my heart. And so just that one noticing is like, okay, this is what's, this is spirit. This is what it means for this is what singularity means. Like this is what quantum means. This is what metaphysics mean, like it's this kind of it's not a tesseract, but it kind of is like a tesseract. But what I'm actually saying is what's the other, a fractal, where where these like multiple layers of things are collapsing onto one another. And so I, like feeding my spirit is feeding my body. It is feeding, my heart. It's feeding my creativity. It's feeding my inner child. It is reparenting myself and actually like saying nice things, whispering sweet nothings into my own ear. Is how I do that. I record voice notes to myself. Like it's all types of things that I do, and I think I want to be at a point where they are not things that I do anymore, where it's just like, this is just my being, and I am so obedient that the things that I need to do to serve, spirit, or to even hear spirit, to channel spirit, to understand, to be inside of the singularity of all of creation, is to stop thinking about those things, stop trying to be, stop making them choices. Like that's what I'm yearning toward. Like, when it's just a reaction, like what would it look like if our baseline reactions to everything was not from a place of our trauma, but like from a place of our deep connection, to all that is, and not having to worry about not having to worry about the other things that we be worried about.
I got you.
And then also, when that doesn't happen, being okay with that too. Like that's what's supposed. That's what it is.
That's my next question, because you're moving into a space with another person. And you've mentioned Ayana, and I know she's a deeply spiritual person going through her transition in terms of her spirit. And the two of you together, now you say you already know her, and you know her more through your mother. Now you're going to be roommates. There's a couple of questions. What do you see, if anything, as a possible downside of that? Because a lot of times artists need their space, and you're in a space with someone else, but you still need your space. So one thing is, what do you need to create in this space? And there's a saying in our household about bringing your biscuit to the table. So what do you think, besides the things that you've talked about, because I'm very clear on that, and a lot of those things are ethereal, practical. What are some of the challenges? And so I'm asking like 5 questions all in one. Bringing your biscuit to the table, connecting yourself to the community. How do you think that can happen? What are some of the downsides of this move that you can foresee or foreshadow? And what do you need to create in this space?
Physically. Okay. Yeah. Bringing my biscuit to the table. What do I need to do that? And what may be some of the hiccups or challenges in doing that
Mhm.
with all of the things that already are.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I
And
just had
somebody keeps telling me I should write all these questions down so that people can have them in advance and give them some time to think about this stuff. But
no,
yeah,
I'm
okay.
not that person anyway. I wouldn't have done it.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
No. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, no, I appreciate the question. And this is a new thing for me where it's like my pace is my pace,
Mhm.
and so I don't hear you rushing me in the question, and so I don't feel rushed, and I also don't feel like I'm taking too long.
No, you go ahead.
So I appreciate you for offering me um your presence.
Mhm.
um I think what just happened for me is I actually thought about um like the sunny side of the street, like what does it look like if everything goes as smooth as it can go, and we get in here and blow this thing, out, like everybody is in their flow doing their thing and it's working.
Mhm.
And what showed up for me was that Ayana and I both share this experience of kind of being vessels and kind of having been deposited a lot of things,
Mhm.
like we both have been at it for a long time. We were raised to be who we are, like we have very similar interests and desires, and also very similar shadows, I would say, also, where there is some like self-doubt, there's some
Mhm.
self-confidence, there's some early childhood trauma, like it's
Mm.
cute and it ain't cute at the same time.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Like
Sure. Sure.
for the both of us. And I think the magic inside of that is, if we are both vulnerable and open to receiving the type of attention and connection and support that we've been yearning for,
Mhm.
then it works.
Mhm.
And we are able to take what we know and just do it
Mhm.
and be inside of it, and and everything that Ayana wants, I want.
Mhm.
Everything
Mhm.
I want, Ayana wants. um and that's a very beautiful place to be in, and it's also a really scary place to be in,
Mhm.
because culturally, as much work as we both have done, and as much as everybody um that's here in this space is making an intention toward community and to return to a place within our culture and our history and our lineage that ain't like nothing that we are experiencing right now, but that
Mhm.
very much like what we experience already, you know, um, it still can go left, like our intentions and our desires only can take us as far as our discipline, our rigor, our systems, our governance, like it's just is what it is.
Mhm.
And that's exhausting sometimes,
Yes.
because we are dying to self moment by moment. Like we are
Mhm.
literally reprogramming everything that we know, even when we're conscious of our desire to reprogram.
Mhm.
We still be going down kicking and screaming sometimes. And so I think what is exciting to me is, like, I don't have a lot of energy, and I feel good about saying that,
Mhm.
and it's just like, which, as I'm hearing that coming, I'm like, maybe I don't feel good about saying that.
Mhm.
No,
Mhm.
but why I feel good about it is because the part of me that needs to be the teacher is dying, and the part of me that needs to be the sister, the friend, the home, like the student and the teacher at the same time
Mhm.
is awakening. And like, it's not really even awakening, it's just like getting real comfortable with saying, like, I also want to learn from you, you
Yes.
know
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I know a lot, and I'm wonderful, I'm great,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I think you're great too, so can
Mhm.
we can we do something
Mhm.
together, so
Yeah.
like that me is getting stronger every day, to just be in that dignified vulnerability that is like, it's not that I don't know who I am, that my hand is out, it's just
Mhm.
that like,
Mhm.
maybe it's my arm that's linked, like my arm is out, put yours through mine.
Mhm.
And so I see us making medicine. I see us holding, space
Mhm.
together. I see us getting that garden together.
Yeah.
Um, when I went to visit the house, the mulberry tree was ripe. And I said,
Mhm.
oh, we should put a tarp down, like,
Mhm.
because I mean, that
Mhm.
thing is abundant, but
Mhm.
the fruit is all the way up high in the heavenlies. And so, like, I have wanted to homestead and to like, I am just very domestic. I think all of my skill sets work in a home,
Mhm.
and I've run from that for so long. And I'm just like, actually, that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am an auntie, I am a mama. That's
Mhm.
just what you're gonna get from me,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I see Ayana holding that space too. So I mean, we both love babies, like
Mhm.
we both are attracted to birth and even to death and to, just like really the shamanic way. Um, and being able to even hold space for one another and just like, even if we don't do a project together, just holding space for one another and being inside of that vulnerability and being able to like ask and kind of bounce and all of that, what will come out of that, I think could be magical and really, really exciting.
Mhm.
Um, I think what I would need for that to happen, um, definitely need my space, which
Mhm.
is not necessarily physical, it's more sound space,
Gotcha.
like I need quiet, um,
Mhm.
because I'm very contemplative, like when I'm working with my hands, I am like shut. It's like, it's meditative for me. It's like, I call it somatic meditation. So even cleaning is a meditative practice for me because I turn my mind off and I just get in my body.
Mhm.
And when I'm in that time, I don't really like to hear a lot of noises, and I certainly don't like to talk.
Mhm.
And so I think, just kind of boundaries around us being two very chatty Cathys, like when we need quiet time.
Mhm.
And in terms of that governance, like that co-governance and that co-accountability, is like, I don't know Ayana that well, so I don't know about her, but I sense she might struggle with this as well, that even when you are wanting to be silent, you may chat because
Mm.
there's
Mm.
somebody else around, because
Right.
that's also something that is not okay in society. It is not okay to be silent and like present with people even when you are not directly interacting, and so like how to be present with yourself and present with others. So I think sound is definitely one. um and then space, like we would need a workroom, like there has to
Mhm.
be designated area. Like my kitchen is abounding. I think my dream home has two kitchens, a cooking
Mhm.
kitchen and a processing kitchen.
Okay.
you
Okay.
know it's like there we need dedicated medicine making space so that
Mm.
we do not neglect our need to eat actual food.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because like my
Mhm.
kitchen has like my apothecary, and like, at any given time there are things drying in my home,
Mm.
like there's
Mm.
mad jars, like, I got jars of food, I got
Mm.
jars of medicine, I keep a lot of alcohol because I'm always making tinctures. Like
Mhm.
we both of us would need space for supplies,
Mhm.
and for, in terms of organization, for the space to remain decluttered and like, for all that flow to happen.
Mhm.
An organized space to create and to hold my supplies that are not in my bedroom, because I also cannot, I'm just like, I can't wake up to looking at a bunch of
Clutter.
stuff.
Yes. 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 Yes.
But
Gotcha.
it's like my art form requires that I have supplies, and
Mhm.
and my work has been, the past few months that I have been in this kind of releasing space from my apartment and preparing to downsize. It's like, okay, what are the things that I need, and what is just like this? But this is actually how I got to the point of being ready to share. I'm like, okay, Sache, you ready? Like, you
Okay.
at this point you're stockpiling, all right?
Mm,
Like,
mm, mm, mm,
you got to figure out a way to get this out to the people,
mm.
because your medicine just can't be for you. Like,
Gotcha.
because to be in the ritual and the practice, I have to continue to create. But then if I'm not using it, it's ridiculous. So
Mhm,
I think that's another place that Ayana and I can certainly help each other. And that's also another place where our work naturally bubbles out into community,
mhm,
and and what does it, like, there's a mutual aid apothecary in DC. What does it look like to bring that type of work here to Baltimore, starting in Park Heights, where we're getting people the medicine that they need to, like, sustain, like
okay.
creating tinctures and things like that, like a Park Heights blend based on the weeds. That would be fun.
Okay. So, and I don't know how much time I have, because I'm nosy. I just want to know stuff. But I hear you saying that you need quiet. We did have a resident in the space prior to the two of you coming, and
Mm-hmm.
that became an issue of why she's no longer there, because there's a neighbor who hit their music up loud. I don't know how that has been resolved, or if it has been resolved, but she felt challenged by that noise and that. Um, so that would be something that the two of you all might, I don't know, Brother Haki said that he would speak to the neighbor and everything, but there's that issue of sound
Mm-hmm.
that you
That's
were
not the
referring.
quiet. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. I apologize.
No, that's okay. And I do understand what you're talking about in your space, but if you have this outside bombardment, that might be an issue. So that's
Mm-hmm.
just a preparatory thing,
Mm-hmm.
so that you know that. One of the other things is, what are some of your pet peeves? Those little things that would get on somebody's nerves, or the little things that get on your nerves. One of my pet peeves is when somebody opens the refrigerator and then walks all around the kitchen doing 10,000 things without closing the
Okay.
refrigerator. That
Oh.
bothers me, y'all. That bothers me. Why don't you just shut the refrigerator and then go do what you need to do? If you need to come back to the refrigerator, come back to but in the meantime, the refrigerator's open, it's beeping because it's been left open so long. That bothers me. So that's just a
Mm-hmm.
little pet peeve of mine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That living with somebody,
Felt that.
I have one of those things like in Harlem Nights, when she said that you just left a little orange juice in the container, just a swallow in the container. Who does it? I feel her on that, because my husband does that. So what are some of your pet peeves, or something that that would bother you, or what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I don't know if I would have been able to frame this prior to, but wastefulness is a pet peeve of all kinds.
Mm.
Don't waste electricity, don't waste food, don't waste water, don't waste my time, don't waste your own time. Like, I think, yeah, waste is a pet peeve
Mhm.
of mine. It really, it gets to me. Like, you leave a room, turn the light off. If it's more
Mhm.
than 30 seconds, turn the light off. Like this,
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that, but I think that's kind of, it's a pet peeve, but it's been with me so long that I've learned to manage it a little bit. I'm trying
Mhm.
to think of something that is still quite visceral, and I'm just like, get out my face.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, talking during quiet time is definitely up there.
Mhm.
Like, when I say noise, I mean talking. Like, I
Mhm.
can handle any other type of noise. I turn it into white noise, I turn it
Mhm.
into sound, but like directly wanting my attention when I
Gotcha.
don't want to give it is
Gotcha.
a pet peeve.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and just, something I tolerate, but I have a short, I'm just like, okay, I'm tired.
Mm, mhm,
um,
mhm.
I think other pet peeves, let's see. Ooh, is passive aggression a pet peeve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm,
Passive aggression is a pet peeve of mine, even within myself. Like when I
mhm,
when I experience myself not saying what I mean, or like, you know, when I even like when I be trying to play the game of passive aggression, I was just like, oh, should I say it this way or should I not say it? And then I'm
mhm,
just like, why we gotta act like this?
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
I don't like it.
mhm,
I don't
mhm,
like it, and I don't like when people don't say what they mean.
mhm,
Like I very much can read people,
mhm.
and some people say I'm being judgmental, and some people say I'm projecting on them, and I'm just like, baby, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're not telling the truth.
Mhm,
Like what
mhm,
you're saying to me might be a reason, it might be a truth, but it is not actually why you're doing this thing. And I really wish you wouldn't
mhm,
lie to me to my face.
mm.
Like
Or to
that.
yourself.
Or to
Mhm,
yourself. Yeah,
mhm, mhm,
self-deception is a pet peeve. And again, it's a pet, when I say that out loud, I'm just like, well, Sasha, who the hell are you? Like, you don't have all this, you don't have it all
mhm,
together.
mhm,
And I don't, but I think just in general, that is one of the things that if I could get rid of it out of us as a species,
mhm,
I
mhm,
would, like how can we lovingly, just love ourselves and love others, like openly, honestly, and not feel the need to shapeshift so much that we're not willing to tell the truth and be the truth.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, that type of dance and prance of just like something needing to be talked about or whatever.
mhm,
Um, yeah, but I don't. I guess another pet peeve is I don't like to be the one to initiate all the time. I'm just like
mm,
I get exhausted with performing that role where it's just like, okay, can we all decide? You
mm,
know.
mm,
So just kind of feeling like I'm holding more weight,
mhm, mhm.
than others is like,
Gotcha.
I don't know if that falls in pet peeve category, but it's definitely a challenge in terms of
Mhm,
social dynamics that I experience.
mhm,
And I have to I got to do a lot of self talk, and it's like, well, Sasha, what if it's you?
mhm,
Like
mhm,
what if it's you that's not saying what you mean? What if it's you that's not,
mhm.
So,
A couple more things, and then I'm done.
okay,
For real, for real.
okay,
Um, uh, there's a couple of things about the house. I don't know whether it's been mentioned before or not. Um, no drugs of any kind at all. And then I don't know how. I don't know if you have a partner, a husband, a girlfriend, whomever, whatever, in terms of having company in the house.
hmm
If you have a preference for like or parties and things of that nature, how to navigate that, having company and those kinds of things. That's not a question that maybe you can just talk about or not. I don't know, but that's something that comes up. Having friends over and having someone else in the space
hmm
that you're rooming with, um, working that stuff out, that kind of a dynamic.
hmm
Um, and there was another question and I lost it in talking about that. I did talk about the drugs and everything, drug free, um, but that dynamic of uh, uh, of having company. Um, Are you a party person? Do you like people around, or do you like your space and quiet? Don't want to have a lot of company around, or things like that.
hmm
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think my desire to be around people is a lot of the times around like ritual, like I think my next dwelling, I definitely would want it to be a place where people could be.
Mhm,
Um, but I am not a big people in my house kind of person. I'm an organizer by experience. And so I do love kind of event planning, and I do love parties. I love bringing people together for just for festive energy. I appreciate that. Um, but that's like not necessarily a part of my lifestyle so much. As like, it's not my everyday. I guess if it were drinking, it would be like, occasionally, every once in a while, it's not a everything or even a weekly thing. Cause I do like peace and quiet at home. Home space is very sacred to me. Yeah, the people that I see the most in my home are my sister and her children. So I do have 3 little babies that, wherever I am, I want them to be welcome as well.
Gotcha.
And they're 4, 6, and 8.
4, 6, and 8. Okay.
And then I do have a partner. You know, we are used to having. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I saw animals. I
Yes.
don't have animals.
Okay.
Right now. Actually, I'm coming up on the anniversary of the passing of my little puppy,
Aw.
who was a full-grown dog. He lived a good life. He lived a good life. So I like animal energy. I have a lot of animal totem, like statue type of deals, that I kind of bring with me. But I do not have an animal in my home.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's like I have people that I would want to be able to come in my living space, but also I'm no stranger to group living, and sometimes you gotta make it work in other ways. So I haven't read the policy on company, but I'd be willing to submit to rules, within reason. And if it don't make sense to me, then I love y'all, and respectfully decline.
And I said that would be my last question, but my brother is a Gemini. And the twins. I love my brother. I only have one brother, and I love the ground he walks on, but he's a Gemini. So on the one hand, he's festive and gregarious, but on the other hand, he's dour and moody, and you never know on any given day which one you're gonna get. So what kind of Gemini are you?
Well, I think first and foremost, we should stop expecting Geminis to be the same way all day. Like, that's just
that's not gonna happen.
Just let that go. Like, it's okay. I think I am definitely a flirty Gemini, like very much festive fairy kind of energy. And I'm just like your brother, but it's not, I don't think it's a day by day kind of thing. It truly is moment by moment. And in my own maturing, I am understanding what it means to have my twins holding hands, and not fighting each other.
Yes.
And so what that looks like in real time is that I'm very self-aware, like actually the last time that the first and only time that I was at the space and spending time with Ayana, she noticed that my mood shifted. And I was just like, and then she started wanting to ask me questions like, oh, what's going on? I said, don't worry, I'll tell you, and I'm just like, me growing up is like, I'm willing to tell you. And if I'm not telling you, then it's okay. Like, please don't worry about it. I'm okay. I'm good. I don't need anything. And really I'm learning how to ask for what I need in the moments that I do. Actually have needs that could be supported by other people. But I think the energy that I love the most about myself is that kind of light, very, levity, airy, warm, the first warm winds of spring type energy.
Okay. And I'm seeing in the notes, no overnight guests for longer than 3 consecutive nights without prior notification.
Okay.
without prior notification.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much. You have been a joy to talk to.
Oh.
Absolute joy. And I look forward to having many more discussions and coming over and eating. I love to cook too. And I know for Kim, food is her love language because
Yes.
her mother is a chef and she grew up
Mhm.
with all of that, and she can throw down. But she does
Mhm.
it in a healthy way as well. And
Yeah.
so you all have that same energy. So
Yeah.
that's going to be wonderful. So Brother Haki, I know I've taken up the majority of the time, but if you or Kim want to have that, I'll shut up.
Sache.
I'll give over. Kim, Brother Haki, either one?
I'm complete.
Mhm.
Okay. Brother Haki, anything? Can't hear you. I don't know. Your connection is a little wobbly. Okay, Brother Haki, I love you. If you have something you want to type it in the chat because we can't hear you. Okay. And Sister Kim, you said, yeah.
Yes, I'm complete. This was
Okay.
enlightening. Haki is saying just a moment. So
Okay.
we will give him just a moment.
Okay.
I don't want to, disrespect you guys' time, and so thankful for you being here today. Either way, whatever we decide from this moment moving forward, it was a blessing to hear from both of you and see a window into, just your movings and comings. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I see your question. And I don't mind it. I haven't done it in a very long time, so I might have a different answer,
Mm-hmm.
as I'm doing it. Um, bathrooms and kitchens,
Mm-hmm.
they get real strange, in shared spaces. But just in general, I live alone and my bathroom, my kitchen is still, a challenge. Um, I think both Ayana and I, and this is an assumption, but just knowing who she is, a lot of ritual happens in, the bathroom. And so I don't even suspect that it would be a problem. Like if it were, if there were an issue of cleanliness or spaciousness, it would probably be me that, that Ayana has a problem with, because I'm always putting something in my bath. It's
Mm-hmm.
always a leaf or a herb
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Haki, you might be upset at us, so I definitely would love some tips on how to keep the drains clean and all of that. But I don't imagine any issues. And then how do I, what does being considerate mean to me? Um, my answer is always going to be like self first. I think to be considerate to others is to consider your own self,
Mm-hmm.
and to interact from that perspective, which is, self-awareness, and being mindful of the space that you're taking up, and then also, being able to know what your needs are and your desires are to make requests, or, ask for a conversation when you would like to be considered. I think, to be considerate is both of those things, to be self-compassionate and compassionate to others as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then your last question around my employment, I am technically on a work break, so I have some savings. Um, and then, I'm still technically self-employed, so I have a contract and I do some contract work. And what I'm looking forward to in the house is to give me the space to start to integrate this, what I have been learning and doing, and want like the evolution of what I'd like to offer into community. And so I have some ideas that I am looking forward to monetizing, which is, you know, you just saw me go on a whole tangent. That's a word in and of itself, and we can talk about it later.
Okay. Well, I'm through. I'm finished. Again, it was a pleasure, and I guess we'll sign off, and we'll be making decisions and getting with you in a half a second. And I enjoyed this very much.
Oh, I did as well. Thank you so much, Mama Ade.
My pleasure.
And thank you, Baba Haki. And thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening.
You do the same.
All right. Peace, peace.